I am officially in frugal living land and am meal prepping all my lunches and dinners this week for under $50. I am not a big fan of traditional meal prep where you eat the same exact meal every day for the entire week. That's just not something that would ever work for me. So today we are preparing foods in bulk so that we can make different meals throughout the week that are delicious and inexpensive, and we ensure nothing we bought goes to waste. I am not proud of how many bags of produce I've let die in my fridge over the years, and I'm trying to be much more conscious about that. I truly want to get the full use out of every dollar that I'm spending. So I started by prepping some Brussels sprouts and carrots with avocado oil and seasonings. I keep these pretty simple, roast them on 400 until my preferred doneness. Then I diced what I had left of a yellow onion to caramelize that on the stove for recipes later. I prefer to cook with ghee whenever possible, but you can use avocado oil here or normal butter. While those were cooking slowly, I measured out my rice and left it to soak in water for at least 30 minutes before rinsing it to make sure I'm really breaking down those starches, which helps tremendously with digestion. I checked on the Brussels sprouts and those were not quite done in my opinion, so I put those back in for a few more minutes and removed the roasted carrots and put them in a container without a lid until they were cool. Next, I prepped some mini gold potatoes. These are really great to have throughout the week because they can be added to breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And again, keeping these simple so that they can be used in a variety of ways, I just used avocado oil and some basic seasonings like salt, pepper, onion powder, paprika, and thyme. And I usually bake these at 400 for about 40 minutes. I pulled my Brussels sprouts when they were nice and crispy and drizzled hot honey on top of them before putting them in their container to cool. I had to try one though, and they were incredible. I try to stay on top of the cleaning as I go, especially when I'm cooking a lot because I just don't have a big kitchen, so I kind of have to, honestly. Once my onions were caramelized, I was going to use them all for one recipe, but decided last minute to split them for my pork patties and my meatballs. I started with my Greek-inspired pork patties. I used salt, pepper, and turmeric, and then found this tiny bit of feta left over, so I crumbled that up into the mix. I also washed some fresh parsley and chopped that up and added that in as well. Then I formed them into patties and cooked those on about medium heat until they browned slightly on both sides. Once those were done, I started preparing the meatballs. I use a mix of beef and pork, so I used up the other half pound of pork and added in the rest of the parsley and caramelized onions, salt, pepper, and Italian seasonings. Then my potatoes got done, so I put those in a container to cool. At this point, I had quite a few containers open and in the way, so I put those in the dining room so I wasn't cooking with raw meat right next to all my cooked food. After my ground beef was mostly defrosted, I split it in half for taco meat in the pan and meatballs in the bowl. I also added my egg, breadcrumbs, and milk to the meatball mixture. Then I made the meatballs. I was able to get about 21 out of the 1.5 pounds of meat. As my ground beef cooked, I finally got back to my rice that had been soaking. I rinsed that thoroughly and measured out a 2-to-1 ratio of water to rice and put that on to boil. Once my ground beef was totally cooked, I drained the excess fat and added the seasoning and water and put that on to simmer. As that got finished, I got my meatballs out of the oven and put those in a container to cool. A few of them got a little more done than I'd prefer, but they'll be fine, especially since I'll be making these with probably a sauce or gravy of some sort, so I'm not too worried about it. The taco meat went into its container next, and then I started chopping cilantro for what was supposed to be my cilantro lime rice, but unfortunately I didn't have any limes, but I did have lemons, so I made that work and it turned out just fine. It's all about using what we have. That officially concludes the bulk of my meal prep for this week. This should cover my lunches and dinners all week long, and I still have several things left over for breakfasts and snacks, all for under $50. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this gave you some ideas for frugal meals for you and your family. If you enjoyed this content, please like this video and follow along for more. I make content on money, minimalism, lifestyle, you name it. Anything to make life happier, easier, and more fulfilling. I hope to see you soon.